back, family and friends. I trust that you all had a great weekend. I know that I did. Me and my husband, we took some R&R. We spent time at Canyon Creek, and the area was absolutely beautiful. It was very green. All of the trees and the river was just like right there, right where we were. Me and my husband decided to take a little camping trip, just me and him. Usually we take the kids like everywhere we go. We're always taking the kids, every function, every event, just everything. And it's been a while since me and my husband have had R&R time. So we figured we'd take a moment just to spend with one another. And when we get there on the drive up, we noticed that everything was burnt around us, like the trees and all of the things. So God, if you guys can imagine, a lot of Cali has been on fire. And that area where we were going, it was on fire. And then one of the staff attendants happened to tell us that just up the road, because we were going to go see the glory hole, and just up the road, she said everything was burnt. I mean, everything burnt all around, all the stores and houses and all of the stuff. It was just all burnt. It was all in shambles. And there, the air seemed very light. There was no, we didn't see, smell the smoke. There was no smoke or anything like that. It was very clear. And I actually brought some clips back so that you guys can see around us. You can see the dead trees, the burnt and all of the things, but where we were was very green and very beautiful. And it just so happened that the staff member said that the fire station actually gets stationed there. So that's why that area actually upheld through all the fires, but everything else around them was burnt. Even on the way, there was like a lot of burnt. There was no more greenery. But I am so thankful to the Lord because he is so faithful in everything. He always provides. He always makes a way. And in that whole situation, we actually happen to be members of that Canyon Creek Resort. And it was just beautiful. Everything green, all the trees still standing, all of the things. Just this little bitty space out of the midst of everything else God kept. And his faithfulness just continues to endure forever and ever. Well, without further ado, let's get to the tea. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about short-term foster care. So like short stays. We have respite, we have emergency, and we have short-term. So one type of stay could be that the foster agency or maybe even the county will call you during the middle of the night or very late, and they need a child to be placed or children to be placed until they can determine the status of the parents or what that would look like. And in that case, that's like a short-term stay, usually about 72 hours. So they investigate whatever the situation is for the 72 hours to find out, can the child immediately return to home or does the child need to be in long-term care? And I know for us, we've received children. We're not a short-term foster care, we're actually long-term. However, we've received children call in the middle of the night, hey, we have some kids, we need to place them right away. We had no idea that that would be, I want to say 2 years that the kids actually stayed with us. We thought it was going to be a short-term process. So they called us, hey, we need to place the kids. We said we took the kids, but within 72 to 48 hours, they were saying, hey, do you mind if the kids stay with you guys a little longer? And we were like, sure, no problem. Then we got a call about a month later, hey, do you mind if the kids stay? So sometimes, depending on the situation, it can go a little longer than what you initially thought, but you actually have a choice. You don't have to keep the kids. We just happened to be long term. So we went on ahead and we kept the kids for about a year and a half or so, maybe even 2 years. So we kept the kids up until the parent got them back, which actually the kid's parent was in like what do you call that? A home for transitioning, and it was like a drug rehab situation. So the mom had already finished her rehab and all of the things and all of the classes. And usually they give, like the courts will give up to 6 months, and then they'll extend it another 6 months, and then they'll give another 6 months. But after that, then if the parent doesn't, depending on the court system though, because we do have different counties, after that, then they'll say, okay, the kids are remanded to long-term foster care, or the kids can go home. How soon can mom get a place? Yada, 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 that sort of thing. And it just so happened with these children, the kids can go home, but mom didn't have a place for the kids to come to. So we had to wait for mom to get a home. Once mom got a home, and we had 5 of them, so she got a 2-bedroom, which the court said, yes, they can all go home, even though it was a 2-bedroom. But a couple of the kids were like, no, we want to wait till she gets a bigger place, because it gets crowded and it's a lot of us, and it's just too much fighting and just too much of, whatever happens. You guys know kids, sibling rivalry, it can be a whole thing. So the kids actually waited until mom got her bigger place, which was not too long after that. And then they eventually went home too. So short term can turn in and progress into long term if you wanted to, or if they say, hey, we need longer care for the kids other than what we thought. And would you like to keep them, or should we go ahead and move them? So that is something that we've encountered several times, actually, where we've kept the kids longer than what they initially thought. But we are a long-term foster care, so we actually do both. We prefer long-term. So then we have respite care. So respite is just similar to short-term, except for the differences is that when you have respite care, sometimes you can call other foster parents and say, hey, we're going to go out of town for a couple days, just me and the husband or whatever have you. And then they can ask if they can keep the kids for a couple days, just so that you and your family can have a moment to recuperate from all of the challenges through the week or through the month or whatever have you. Some people go take the weekend every week. Some people take every other week. Some people take monthly. Some people don't take time at all. That would be me. However, I was just like, you know what? Me and the hubby, we need some one-on-one. We take the kids everywhere, and it's just a whole thing. We need time to wind down and time to recuperate. It's like a time to rejuvenate so that you can come back fresh when you're dealing with all of the workers, all of the therapists, all of the CASAs, all of the county workers, the attorneys. I mean, it could just be a whole thing. They have rehab therapists, they have special therapists with the family. It's just, I have all of what I've named to you and then some. So it could be a lot of stress on the household with each child, and they all have different therapists and workers that come in and out and to work with each and every child. It can be a whole thing. And then on top of that, if the kid has an IEP, that's a whole nother situation. It's just a lot. And so on the household, it can kind of create a little bit of a stress. So it's very important that you and the husband take some one-on-one, or you and your family as a whole kind of take some one-on-one, because it could be stressful. And I do consider all of my kids, be them foster or otherwise, to be part of the family. However, a lot of stress can be put on your own kids with all of the arguing and the fighting and this and that. If that's what the case is, depending on the type of child that you have, it can be a little bit stressful. So your own kids might need time to recuperate and get away. So they might need a little mini vacay. So I do take that in consideration for my own household. I suggest you take it in consideration for yours, or not, whichever works for you. And then we also have Short-term stays. Short-term stays are usually when the children arrive in the dead of night. So you'll get a call 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, can you take a kid? We have an emergency placement that the kids need to be placed like right now. So then they remove the kids, they bring them to you in the dead of night. Within 10 days, the kids usually go back home. So, and this usually happens in high poverty areas where they're wanting to ensure that nothing is going on, like the kids are not being abused or, are being exposed to any type of neglect or, drug use or whatever have you. So they'll bring the kids to you, and then you'll keep them for about 10 days. The police and CPS will investigate to find out, are the kids in a dangerous situation? Can they go back home? Is it going to be okay? However, this also causes trauma for the kids, because could you imagine in the middle of the night, you have a kid that was in their mind is safe and everything is fine, and then you go and you remove a child from everything that they know in the middle of the night. So the child is feeling, some sense of trauma because the police are now involved and they get uprooted and then taken out of their home. And this happens for about 10 days just so that they can make sure that the kids are safe, or the kids can be removed because maybe the parents went to jail. There was some type of domestic violence or something that has happened that has caused the child to then have to be removed, and then the child needs to be in a safe place until the parent can either get out of jail, or if they say, oh, we need the parent to take some parenting classes, we need the parent to, maybe it's drug rehab that the parent needs to go to or whatever have you, so that the kids can be safe at home, then they try to do that as well. Or maybe they get a call in the middle of the night, the parents are drunk, maybe the neighbors are hearing the screaming or whatever have you, maybe there's some domestic violence that's happening. If that is the case, then also the police is called, the children will be removed, and they will then evaluate, is this a safe environment for the children to go back to? Experts, however, have seen that this is a more traumatic situation for the children to be removed than for the children to stay in that environment. Go figure, because I would have never thought in that way that it would be more traumatic to remove the child from a domestic violence or drug infested environment. I never would have thought that would be something that would be traumatic. But come to think about it, I guess it would be, because you would be taken away from everything you've only known, all that you've only knew. So then at that point, they're like, the police will come in, they kind of look in the refrigerator, they're looking in through the house to see what type of environment the children are living in. Is it dirty? Is it clean? Is there food? What does this look like for the child? And in some cases, some police officers will say, well, no, the child is best there, until everything settles down. Maybe they have another family member, or maybe a friend across the street or a neighbor or something that steps in at that moment and says, hey, they can come stay with us until, the parent sobers up. They let the parent out the next day or whatever have you. In some cases, you do find that happening, but in a lot of cases, because they don't want any children to slip through the cracks, they'll go ahead and just remove the child altogether. And that in itself can be traumatic for the child and also for the parent, because they come home and their kids are gone. And maybe there was an adult or someone there that the kids could have stayed with, but because of whatever the environment might have looked like, then the police might have opted to say, no, let's just remove the kids altogether. And in that case, the children can be taken for up to 10 days just to ensure that the kids are in a safe, loving environment, and that the kids themselves are not being abused or neglected in any way. And then we have emergency care. And usually with emergency care, that's when children or infants are removed from a drug or alcohol induced environment. So then the children will be taken, or maybe there's an unexpected death or from a parent or caregiver, family that was maybe taking care of the child. There could be an unexpected death, so then they would then take the children and place them in emergency care. And in that case, the social workers, there are mental health therapists, and everyone diligently working to ensure that the kids have therapy, to ensure that the kids are going to go to maybe another family member, maybe a family friend. They are diligently working to place the children as quickly as possible in an environment where the children are not further in a traumatic situation, so to speak, or having to endure any more duress than what they've already experienced. And then maybe that there was some type of mental illness, and then the child had to be then taken from the parent due to some type of mental illness. That mental illness could be anything like schizophrenia. Maybe the parent was off their medication. It could be bipolar. Maybe the parent's off their medication, and it just induced a lot of dangerous environment for the child, or dangerous situation, or whatever have you. So then they have to then come in so that the parent can then get back on their medication. They can then get settled, get balanced on their medication, and then the child would then go back home after the parent has endured some classes of some sort, so that they can ensure that the parent understands how important it is for them to stay on their medication, how important it is for children to be in a safe environment. And so emergency care can last anywhere from a few days to a few months. Each state has its own regulations and guidelines, so it really depends on the state. And just remember, in all of the situation concerning kids, it is so important to pray first. And I cannot stress that enough. In all of my videos, you hear me saying, pray first, consult the Lord. Make sure that it's the Lord leading you. Make sure that it's the Lord guiding you. Make sure that it is the Lord for each and every child that is placed in your home, because God has that special child for you. God has a ministry for you and for each and every situation that you encounter, whether it be long-term, whether it be short-term, whether it be emergency, maybe it's just respite and you're just keeping the child just for a few days, just so that the parents can then recuperate and can come back rejuvenated and ready to care for the child. It is important that we are consistently in prayer, because you have to know that prayer, it also rejuvenates our mind. Fasting, it also rejuvenates our body and keeps us stable and in right relationship with the Lord, as we then pour out that love onto the children that are going through these traumatic situations. It's important for us to be in our word. It's important for us to be in prayer, to hear what the Holy Spirit is saying for each and every child, because each child, you have to understand that every child and their personalities are different. You cannot discipline one the same way you do the other. It's just not going to work. We need to make sure that we have the Lord's guidance, the Lord's direction when we're loving on these children, and when we're pouring into them, and when we're talking to them about the things of God. Because remember, before you get children into your home, you want to pray. You want to make sure that all of you guys are moving congruently in the same direction of the Holy Spirit. And to do that, it's important to pray first, to say, hey, Lord, is this you that is opening my heart to these children? Or is it just me because I'm feeling bad? You don't have to feel bad. There is someone for each and every child out there. It is important that you pray, and that you have who the Lord sent to you to be a blessing to and to pour into. You want your love tank to be filled, so that then you can pour that love onto someone else's children or someone else's situation. You can be able to speak into their lives, that you can give a word that would transform their lives forever. Because maybe you're only keeping them for 72 hours. Do you know that 72 hours makes a difference? That's all God needs to heal. God doesn't even need 72 hours to heal a child. He can do it just like that. He's God all by himself. All he needs is you to say yes. That's all he needs, is for you to say yes to his will, to his way, to his direction. To say yes to him leading you wherever that might be, to whatever child that might be or what that might look like. Maybe it's a child that is severely mentally ill and they need someone to take the child, and you just happen to be gifted in that area. Why not pour that love on that child and be an encourager, be someone that can love on that child and that can change that child's life. God's just expecting for a yes. He'll do the rest. He'll open up whatever needs to be opened up. He'll give you the tools that you need to love on that child and to teach that child and to be the one that, because maybe you're the only one that has showed the child the love in the way that you did. That makes all the difference. The love. Our children in this day and age, if you look at everything that's going on right now, it's crazy. It is absolutely nuts with our kids. But the love, the prayer, the encouragement from someone that loves them, someone that they know truly loves them, can make all the difference. It can change their life. It can change their whole reality of what their situation might look like. Just you loving on that child and you pouring into them the love of God. Well, that's all the tea for today. See you next time. Bye.